Once, as she sat, now because it is a small sun, and because it was a while only, she trod the golden path. Once, as she sat in deep, felicitous muse, she is happy in the company of her lover, still quivering from her lover's strong embrace. Now, this is the line which is most disturbing line. Savitri is doing yoga. She is committed to sadhana and she is quivering with the lover's embrace. What does that mean? Sex, the lower vital things, they are taboos in spiritual practices. Savitri is having such a realization and still she is quivering in her lover's embrace. That seems a little contradictory. How can Savitri do that sort of a thing at all? She is doing such great yoga, she is treading the golden path, and on the one hand she is treading the golden path, and on the other she is still quivering in her lover's embrace. You see? Are these not contradictory things? This is not possible at all. In fact, all the spiritual practices, even the religious practices, the priest, they are not supposed to marry and have conjugal relationship with him. Even ordinary things like that, you see. But for a spiritual person who is committed to life, this is something not allowed to happen at all. Still quivering from a lover's strong embrace. So the poet is very strong. You see, you can see the physical power which is present in this phrase. You see, Satyavan is a young man, hardly 25 years. Savitri is a young girl, and when they are joining together, naturally the embrace will be strong physical embrace. You see, and she is quivering with that embrace. You see, and made her joy a bridge betwixt earth and heaven, but the joy could be still a bridge between earth and heaven. And abyss yawned suddenly beneath her heart. Now, why at all this description? See, all right, this would have been enough for us that this was the sun before the abyss of the night, and you could have proceeded further. A vast and nameless fear dragged at her nerves. This sentence was not necessary for abysmal night and vast nameless thing. But then why this sentence at all? This is of course purposeful, intentional, necessary, describing the preciseness of Savitri's condition. This is necessary. It shows that Savitri, although inwardly she is following, treading the golden path, the physical is still physical, the vital is still vital, the mental is still mental. And they will respond in their own way. When the embrace is vital, she will quiver that embrace. In other words, the difficulty or the necessity is accentuated by the yogi by putting this sentence. Yes, Savitri's soul is there, but what about Savitri's physical nature, outer nature? You see. It is still outer nature. It is still responding to all those things belonging to the outer world, outer natures. It is there. So, in other words, he is accentuating it in the case of Savitri. That it has to be there. In other words, Savitri has now to attain to this part of her sadhana, of her yoga. She has to attain to this part of the yoga. Once as she sat in deep felicitous muse, still quivering from her lover's strong embrace, and made her joy a bridge betwixt earth and heaven. So now this joy is of course the vital joy which is bridging earth and heaven. That won't do. It has to be given up. And abyss yawned, because it is that vital, therefore there is a deep chasm and something is springing up from the chasm. Coming up from the chasm. And abyss yawned suddenly beneath her heart, you see. A vast and nameless fear dragged at her nerves. It tracks a wild beast, it has slaughtered prey. It seemed to have no den from which it sprang, because it was a nameless darkness. It seemed to have no den from which it sprang. It was not hers, but hid its unseen cause. It came from outside. It came from outside, all right, but there was still something in Savitri which was responding to that. It was able to make an impact on her. It came all right from outside. A vast and nameless fear. There cannot be fear when you are with that realized soul. Absolutely no chance of fear. Fear comes because of the vital. Something which is not opening out in the vital, it is that which causes fear. So therefore that fear, something in Savitri has to open out to higher light, higher power, higher peace, so that the vital becomes bright, luminous, responsive. A vast and nameless fear is that, you see. It was not hers, but hid its unseen God. Then rushing came its vast and fearful found, a formless dread. You see, it is coming from the abyss, from the chasm, from the formless dread with shapeless, endless wings. So you can imagine the magnitude of this dread. Shapeless, endless wings, filling the universe, which is a dangerous depth, a denser darkness than the night could bear. This is terrific. Darkness which night itself cannot bear, it is that kind of a darkness from which the dread is coming. Something deep below. The night, which is darker than night. In other words, in the background of that darkness, night will look a little brighter. Night would envelop the heavens and possess the earth. So it is that cosmic dread. Not her. He says it is not, it came from outside. It is the cosmic dread which is invading Savitri, because Savitri has something in her which can open out to that. A roaring surge of silent death. So that is the dread of death. It came curving round the far edge of the quaking globe. So it is the globe now which is quaking. Savitri was quivering, but now it is the globe which is quaking. Effacing heaven with its enormous stride, it wailed to expand the choked and anguished air and end the fable of the joy of life, the joy of life. The joy of life has become fable, and it is that fable which has to be terminated, and that is what the dread is there for. That is the naked dance of Kali. Paris shall be destroyed, Paris shall be destroyed. That is what she was dancing during the Second World War, in the early stages. Paris shall be destroyed. Kali's dance, and that had to be stopped. And end the fable of the joy of life. It seemed her very being to forbid, abolishing all by which her nature lived. So whatever she had acquired, it was going to be forbidden by this one. And labor to blot out her body and soul, a clutch of some half invisible, an ocean of terror, an ocean of terror. See, you can see the magnitude of this one. Ocean of terror and of sovereign might, a person and a black infinity. So that is the cosmic dread now which Savitri is facing. And that is because her outer is not yet open, has not yet opened. A person and a black infinity. Black infinity, that's the most beautiful phrase, you see. It is as infinite as the white infinity. It seemed to cry to her without thought or word the message of his dark eternity. Again, black infinity, dark eternity. And the awful meaning of his silence is out of some sudden, monstrous, vast reason, out of an abysmal deep of grief and fear, imagined by some blind, regardless self, a consciousness of being without its joy. It has no joy at all, it is constant. Empty of thought, incapable of bliss, that felt the life blank and nowhere found its soul. A voice to the dumb, anguished heart conveyed a stark sense of unspoken words. In her own depths, she heard the unuttered thought. Savitri is hearing in her own depths, unuttered thought, what? That made unreal the world and all life meant. See, Savitri is hearing, what is this world? This unreal, illusion, maya, mithya, false, meaningless, useless, thrown away. She is kind of hearing that. That made unreal the world and all life meant. And the voice, it seemed to cry, the cry of that voice. Who art thou who claim the crown of separate birth? Who are you, Savitri? That you are somebody special, somebody different from others? Who are you? You want to have a crown of jewels on your head? What for? What is the greatness in you? Who art thou? That voice, see. Who art thou who claim the crown of separate birth? Now here or is off in the Revised Edition. Who art thou who claim the crown of separate birth? I don't know. The illusion of the soul's reality. So that voice is saying what you are seeing, experiencing, after what is that? It's an illusion. And personal Godhead on an ignorant globe in the animal body of imperfect man. Hope not to be happy in a world of pain. The voice is aware what Savitri is looking for, to be happy. And the voice is, sorry Savitri, you cannot be happy in a world of pain. You cannot be. The world of pain is a reality. You have to live with that. Because, again, going back, all right, the inner has realized but not the outer. The outer is going to experience the pain of the world of pain. It has to. And dream not listening to the unspoken word and dazzled with the inexpressible ray, transcending the mute superconscious realm, to give a body to the unknowable. In other words, this voice, this dread, knows what Savitri is up to. Savitri's yoga is to give a body to the unknowable, to give shape, form, concreteness to the unknowable. That voice is aware of it, and that voice is challenging to Savitri. Savitri, you cannot do that. In other words, whatever this voice is going to tell to Savitri, it is that which Savitri has to do. She has to give body to the unknowable. She has to give shape to that, you see. For a sanction to thy heart's delight, to burden with bliss the silent, still, supreme, profaning its bare and formless sanctity, or call into thy chamber the divine, call into thy chamber the divine, in thy physical. You want to call him down into the divine, you are doing something wrong, something not possible. That is a challenge. In other words, whatever this voice is going to tell Savitri, Savitri says, Savitri is going to do that thing. She is going to call in a chamber the divine and sit with God tasting a human joy. How can it be? This is what the voice is saying to Savitri. But actually, she is tasting God's joy in the physical. A strong embrace. She was still quivering in her lover's strong embrace.